All right, hey everyone. This is going to be a really quick or abbreviated how to play video for Gloomholden, which is the 18 card table list version of Gloomhaven. And I say abbreviated because it's not going to be teaching you how to play it from scratch. Unfortunately, I've tried a few times now to cut a video, just even if you haven't played Gloomhaven, to teach you how to play from scratch. And it turns out I'm just not very good at making how to play videos. I kept forgetting things and it was dragging on and I wasn't very helpful in the end. So I think the right solution is I'm going to offer this video for if you already know how to play Gloomhaven, or at least you've like watched a video or read through the rules of Gloomhaven, and you're familiar with them at least a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of start from that place and then teach you everything that's different about Gloomholden, or at least as much as I can remember to get to in a video. I'm sure I'm going to forget a few things. So we'll start there. I'm going to just assume you know the terminology and stuff, and the mechanics of Gloomhaven, so that I can actually get through this video and get something out there that's actually a little bit helpful if you're trying to learn the in-hand game. I'm going to have a rules document out there, and it's based on the Gloomhaven rulebook, and then I've changed everything and added things that needed to be added for Gloomholden. So it's a really comprehensive rulebook, and so you can definitely learn that way. I know a lot of people, including myself, sometimes prefer learning from video, but I think using both to kind of supplement what I forget to go through here, and to have a more comprehensive look at it, looking at the rulebook is probably a really good idea as well. So I've got another video out there showing you how to do the setup, and we're already set up for scenario 1 here. And I think I'll just kind of get started. This is an orange scenario. Scenarios are either orange, as indicated by the dot, the color dot in the corner. They're either orange or blue. And what that tells you is what stuff you're going to be facing in your scenario based on the color. See if I can get it to focus here. There, I had it. So this is an orange scenario, which means we get to ignore that bear, which has a blue dot. It doesn't matter if the monsters are upside down. All that matters is, do they have a color dot, and is the color dot your color dot? So we're looking for orange color dots, and we're also looking for no color dots. So any special tiles, obstacles, treasure tiles, traps, monsters, if they don't have a color dot, they apply to both scenarios, because these maps share two scenarios depending on which way you're playing. So this map shares scenario 1 and scenario 2. You'd be playing that this direction, and so there had to be a way to indicate which stuff is your stuff. And so you'd actually be playing the stuff that doesn't have the color dots, like these obstacles and these two wolves, which don't have color dots. You'd be playing those in both scenario 1 and scenario 2. So what's important for us right now is we get to skip the blue dot stuff, which is that bear, and it looks like that's the only thing we need to skip. We get that money token for our scenario. If we were playing scenario 2, since that's an orange dot, they wouldn't get that one, and they wouldn't be facing that wolf. So I'm going to use this is hard to do through my camera lens, but going to use the red arrows to indicate the hex that my character is on. And typically I hold this in my right hand. If I need to use my right hand, a lot of times I'll just stash it there and do whatever I need to do. But for this video, I might end up setting it on the table just for convenience. So right away, we don't need that because we're not in combat. In Gloomholden, every round is either a non-combat round or a combat round. And it's really important because stuff works really differently when you're in combat versus when you're outside of combat. And hopefully you get a taste for that as I play a couple of turns here with you. When you're outside of combat, monsters don't get a turn. Monsters don't actually move on the map in Gloomholden, but they do move, quote unquote move, when you are in combat. So in non-combat rounds, you actually just get to take your turn. Your turn is the only turn for the round. So I would, when I play a card, I tilt them up like that. So I'd play my 2 cards and then discard them, and then that's the entire round. Well, discard them and take the actions on the cards. But when you're in combat, then monsters get to take a turn. So that's just the important thing to remember. Non-combat rounds, when you're not in combat, you just get to keep taking turns, basically. Your turn is the entire round. And then in combat rounds, the monster gets to take a turn as well. And you're only going to be fighting one monster at a time. You can only be in combat with one monster at a time. When you are in combat, that's what the range tracker card is for. This is what is called distance. So it's a different sort of unit of measure. It's like abstracted distance. What will happen is you'll move into a tile, let's say, this tile right here, adjacent to the wolf, and then you'll be in combat. And once you're in combat, movement doesn't happen on the map anymore. Movement happens by increasing or decreasing distance. So monsters will try to do what's advantageous to them. For example, if you are at distance 1, that would put the monster at a disadvantage if he was trying to do ranged attacks. And so the monster would try to move out to distance 2 in order to avoid disadvantage on his attack, stuff like that. Or if you are at distance 3 and you just can't get to distance 1 is melee range, then you just can't do your melee attack. So like if I have a melee attack and all I have is, and we're at distance 4, and I'm trying to get into range to attack, and I only have a move 2 action to go with it, well, I move 2, 4, I'm at 4, so 3, 2, and I can't get into range, so my attack can't land because it's a melee attack and I'm at range 2. So that's how you'll be interacting with range and movement when you're in combat. As soon as you're out of combat, you ignore the range tracker card and you go back to moving on the map. So I think one of the quickest ways to do this will just be to play a couple of turns and try not to interrupt myself too much, but I'll explain some things as I go. So I'll just stash this here for now. And I'm right there. He's 2 hexes away from me, and I kind of have my turn planned out. I know what I want to do here. I think what I'm going to try to do is use this move action or ability and then attack him, and then pair it with that card to see if I can finish him off. And these are prototype cards. The final version of this is going to look a little bit different, but this will give you a close enough idea. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna start by moving 2. That's going to take me right there. I'm going to use that middle red arrow to indicate that I'm on that hex right there, next to or adjacent to the monster at range 1. And what happens when you move into range of a monster, it's called the monster's mid-range, is what you're looking for. The monster's mid-range is, he's a bad example because all of his ranges, you can see the bottom row here is range. All of his ranges are melee range. The dash indicates a 0 for range, or a 1 for range, which is melee range. Wonder if I could have the bear here. Oh, he's all melee too. Okay, I'll just have to talk through it. If whatever their highest range is, A, B, or C, is their max range, whatever their second highest range is called their mid range. So let's say if he was range 3 for column, I have these columns backwards. They will be different on the final, I think. But for column C here, he's got 3 range. For column B, let's say he's got 4 range and then melee range for A. This 4 would be his max range. This 3 would be his mid range. So when you're entering combat, there's kind of 2 ways that it can happen. You can be the aggressor and you can move in and attack, or if you end movement on a tile that's within the mid range of the monster, of any monster, they are going to start combat whether you want to start it or not. But in this case, we've moved into that hex right next to him, and so I slid down my character HP card to reveal his information. So we look like this right now. And he actually gets a chance to what's called interrupt my turn. So if I move into range of him and I end my movement on a hex that's within his mid-range, he actually gets a chance to interrupt to see if he gets to take his turn first. So suddenly we're in a combat round. We started out the game in a non-combat round. I move into a hex. I have intent to attack him, but it actually doesn't matter. As long as I'm in mid-range of that monster, he would have attacked me anyway. So he gets a chance to interrupt my turn. So we're going to hit pause right here, right between this move action that I've already taken, or ability, and right before this attack 2 ability that I want to take, but I haven't had a chance to take yet because he gets a chance to interrupt. And then, obviously, I haven't done my other card either. So what you do is, what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to look at his HP and get that set up. And the left side has the white and the right side has the gold. And those correspond to normal and elite monsters. So that 4 is for a normal monster's HP. So we're going to set him to 4. And I like to keep my thumb on it so I can remember which of these numbers is his current HP. So we've set his HP to 4, and he gets a chance to interrupt us, like I was saying. And so we're going to use this behavior table, and each of these, the A, B, and C, I hit my camera, is what's called a behavior set. And a behavior set, if I can get close enough without hitting my camera here, and focus. A behavior set is, come on, let's get focused here. There we go. That top row has initiative, the middle row has move. The third row from the top is attack, and the bottom row tells you range. And then on that bottom edge, if they're applying any conditions or if they have any bonuses, that will be there too. And then on the character image over here, if there's any ongoing traits or bonuses, they're going to be reflected over here. And these are active all the time, regardless of the behavior set that you roll. So let's just roll a behavior set. You roll by using the monster HP card. You can see there's what I call the ruler up on top with values of A, B, or C. And then you roll onto the red line on the character HP card. So I'm just going to place it, and I rolled a B. So he has behavior set B for the round, which gives him initiative of 6, move of 3, attack of 2, and a range of melee, and he does immobilize on me. And he, with that initiative of 6, definitely interrupts me. And the way that interrupting works, what I forgot to do is, even on non-combat rounds, you should choose your leading card. And the leading card tells you which is your initiative. If I had remembered, I would have chosen the faster one, just kind of by default. So it would have been initiative 23 for me. I moved in right here between these two abilities. He had a chance to interrupt before I can complete my turn. And he did successfully because he rolled a behavior set that has a faster initiative than me. And so now he gets to take his entire turn before I get to finish my turn. And then that's going to be the end of the round. He's going to take his entire turn. I get to finish my turn, and then that's the end of this round. And so we've suddenly gone from a non-combat round into a combat round. One of the reasons it's important to remember whether you're in or outside of combat is one thing I mentioned already, which is the range. But another thing is you can't long rest if you're in combat, but you can long rest if you're outside of combat. So let's just resolve his turn. The way monster AI works in Gloomholden is they always have a move action and an attack action. These values could be 0, or they could be dashes, in which case it would be move 0 or attack 0. Make sure you remember that if the range has a dash, that doesn't mean range 0, that means melee range, which is range 1. So if move and attack have a dash, that means it's 0 and they don't do that action. If range has a dash, that means it's actually just melee range, which is range 1. The way the AI works is they're going to move or attack first, whichever one makes the most sense for them. So it's a little bit you just do whatever's the most beneficial to them to an extent. The exception is they're never going to attack first and then move if that moving is like somehow trying to predict what you're going to do. So an example right away of that is, let's say I have, like right now, I have melee attacks coming up. This monster is not smart enough to attack me first since we're already in range. He's not going to be smart enough to attack me first, and then move away as far as he can in the hopes that he's just going to keep me out of range with my melee attacks. He's just, they're not going to act that smart. They're only going to move in order to either get into range to attack, or they're going to move to try to avoid disadvantage if they have a ranged attack. So, and they're only going to move as little as they need to. So say he has a ranged attack, whatever range it might be, he's not going to move out to maximum range. He's just going to move out to distance 2 in order to avoid that disadvantage. And then one thing I don't think I mentioned yet is, as soon as combat starts, set the range tracker card to the current range. If I had attacked him or tried to attack him before I got interrupted, like at range 3, then we would set the distance at 3. And this is where you'd start out the combat at. And then, I think I mentioned this already, but during combat, we don't move on the map card. We're only going to be adjusting the distance up and down. So anyway, we started out at range 1. I think he rolled B, if I remember right. And he's interrupting me. He doesn't need to move because he's already at melee range. Whoops. Oh. Sorry about that. Drop that card. So he's just going to attack, and he's going to attack me with 2, because in that column B, it's attack 2. So before he gets to execute that attack, we're going to roll an attack modifier for him. And we've got his HP set at 4, so that means the correct table for him is present. The way that you determine which row your modifier is coming from is just what scenario level you're playing on. And this works differently than Big Gloomhaven. I think in Big Gloomhaven, it's like you have the formula where you figure out what scenario level you're playing based on everybody's character levels. There's none of that going on. This is just choose what difficulty you want. So probably you're going to be playing the whole campaign on scenario level 1. And what you would do is, if you're playing and it like seems too easy, well, maybe play on level 2 or try level 3. If you play a scenario and like you're having a hard time beating it, the next time you play it, you could play it on level 0. Every orientation of this card has different values. So like you notice A, B, and C for level 1 is 100. Well, if he had been on a different health, let's say he was on health 5, it would have been values -100. So I have these averaging out to what I want them to be for the monsters getting. The harder the scenario level you're playing, the better the combat modifiers that the monsters get, and vice versa. So anyway, we're going to roll for his attack modifier on his attack of 2. So we're just going to roll. He got a C, which puts him at attack modifier 0, so it's not going to do anything to it. He gets to just execute his 2 attack. So I would normally just stash this back there, so maybe I'll just do that. I'm going to adjust my health, because he hit me for 2, so 8 down to 6. I'm at 6. And then he did immobilize, so that condition needs a chance to do its thing. And so my finishing this turn is that condition's opportunity to finish that out. If I was trying to move here, that immobilize would block me from moving. So after this turn of mine, even if it's only the second half of my turn, that condition has come off of my character. So it's active now. I couldn't move if I wanted to, but I don't have any move actions left, so it didn't really matter. So he hit me down to 6, and now I get to finally finish my turn, which I'm going to resolve the rest of this action for that attack 2. So I'm going to roll for my modifier, which is a B. And the way that character modifiers work, the modifiers you'll be dealing with for you, is different than monsters. Monsters, you just use the row that corresponds to the scenario difficulty level you're playing. For your character, you actually use the row that corresponds to your character level. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. Please focus. So we're starting out on level 1. You can get up to level 5. And I can't remember what I rolled. I think I rolled a B, and that would put me at a 0 modifier. So it could have been -1, it could have been 2, or +2. So I get to just do the 2 attack on him, which would bring me down to 2. And I think, oh, that would be embarrassing to get this wrong in my own rules video, but I think his Retaliate gets to affect me on both of these attack actions. So I believe he gets to hit me back for this one, which I would suffer the 1 damage. So 6 down to 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and execute that one, and I'm going to roll a modifier for that 3 attack. I got another B, except I'm on a different health now. I'm on 5 health, and so these values have changed. So that's actually a +1, which would put me up to a 4 attack. And that is quite a bit of overkill. He's only at 2 health. So he's down to 0 health. The combat, the moment the monster dies, is over. And so this is the end of the round, and we're out of combat now. So the next round will be a non-combat round. So what I'm going to do is put my character HP card back, make sure it's situated in case my map card moved around at all during combat. Make sure it is situated on that tile so I remember where I am. I'm going to stash this so I can use my right hand. And I'm going to discard, if I can get my camera to focus here, I'm going to discard my 2 cards that I played. The way discarding works is there's an A side and a B side of cards. When you discard an A side card, you flip it over and put it on the B side. And so now we have 2 A side cards and 2 B side cards. When you discard a B side card, you slide it behind the card in front of it. So let's say next round we played these 2 B side cards. It would actually look like this. And we would have those 2 left. And then we'd have to play those 2, and then both of those would flip to the B side, and then we'd have to play those 2. And then once you play your last 2 B side cards, then you're forced to go into the short rest, or a long rest if you can. If you're not in combat, you can do a long rest. Okay, so this is where we're at. Dead monsters are considered money tokens, so I could go loot this dead monster tile if I wanted. I don't really have any looting actions, and I don't want to waste a turn to end my turn on that tile, so I'm going to just forgo that money token. And let's move on. Let's go do our next turn. Looking at the board here, I've got that monster left and that monster, and I don't know if I do really well, maybe I can loot that money token, but I'm going to try to go get him. And he is 1, 2, 3 hexes to get into melee range. But what I want to do is I want to demonstrate how elements work. That would be one important thing I could do here. So I'm going to do a turn that would involve that. I'm going to try to use my augmented invisibility ability there. So this 1 after the invisibility icon tells you I'm invisible for 1 round. If I consume 2 dark elements, I can be invisible for 2 rounds. which seems like a good idea. The way element infusion works is an element is infused in the battlefield as long as it's visible. They're all on the top part of the cards here. And so right now, of all of the active abilities, we have 1 dark, 2 dark, and 1 fire. There's only dark and fire in the game. And so I can consume any of those. And it doesn't have to be on cards that you're using. It can be on any card that's visible. So what I'm going to do is my plan. I'm going to play this card, the Invisibility card, and then probably just another card that'll get me there. I needed at least move 3 if I remember right, so I'll play that card because I'm just not planning to heal for a while. That might be silly because I kind of took a beating on that first one, but those are going to be my 2. I'll pick my leading card as a 12, and then we'll try to carry out my turn here. So I'm going to do this action first, and I'm going to move. I think I'm going to move past him outside of range so that, for 1, since I know he's all melee range, so his mid-range is 1, if I stay out of 1 range of him, he can't try to interrupt me. Even if I move through tiles that are in his range, as long as I end movement on a tile or a hex that's not within his mid-range, he can't try to interrupt. Unless, of course, I attack him. So I could move out to here and try to attack him with like a range attack. And in that case, even if his mid-range wasn't 3 or 2, this would be 2. Even if his mid-range wasn't 2, he could still get to try to interrupt with a turn because I'm being an aggressor and I'm attacking him. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do the invisibility. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes all the way up to there. And I'm not going to move into the doorway, even though I maybe could. But I'm just going to move up to there. And I'll know that he's 1, 2 hexes away from me. So I'm going to use the middle red arrow here to remember. I'm not attacking him, so he doesn't get to interrupt because I'm not attacking him and he's not, his mid-range is not enough to reach me because I'm at range 2. So anyway, we already completed our bottom action. We'll do our top action now, which is the invisibility 1, but I can go 2 rounds if I can consume 2 dark. So I'm going to do that. I'll consume this one, and that gets me the 2 rounds. So I'm invisible actually for the next 2 rounds because he didn't try to interrupt. So I get 2 more full turns. Wow, I get 2 more full turns without him doing anything or being able to do anything towards me. Because he doesn't know I'm there. So let's make it count here. I know we're going to be entering combat here, so I'm going to move that card down. And I don't need to roll for his behavior set because, like I said, I'm invisible and he doesn't realize I'm there. So I'm just going to be tracking his health here. He's going to start at 4 because he's a normal monster. One thing I don't think I mentioned is on the map cards, the borders of the monsters tell you whether they're normal or elite. This guy has a gold border, so he's elite. And I know normally in Big Gloomhaven, and I have it white here as well, it's white is the color of a normal monster, but when I was doing the graphic design of the maps, I tried white, and it just didn't look quite as good, and so I went with a red border. So red borders on monsters are normal monsters, yellow borders are elite monsters. So this guy is a normal monster with health 4, and I'm just going to see if I can defeat him in like a turn or 2. What I forgot to do is set the distance at 2, so the starting distance for the combat is distance 2, since I'm 2 range away from him at the start. And I'm going to look to my ranged attacks here. I'm going to go with the higher attack of 3. Maybe I can roll a good modifier and get him that way. Yeah, that probably wasn't very smart, but that's fine. I'm going to then do this one. Maybe this will work, because then I have advantage, because this gives me advantage. So we'll roll for my modifier. That's a C. I'm level 1. That's bad news because that's a -1. Oh, but I had advantage, so I get to roll again. Yay! Oops, hit my camera again. That's a B. That is wonderful. So I have a +1 modifier, which thankfully is enough to defeat him. That takes my 3 to a 4. He had 4 health. That takes him down to 0 HP. And I'm going to return that to its position. I'm going to return this to 1 just for storage, and then I'm going to put that there so I can discard my 2 cards. So all of these are B-side cards. I'm going to slide this behind, and I'm going to slide that behind. So these are the only 2 cards I have left. So I have to use these 2 on my last turn before resting. And now I'm deciding, do I want to do a long rest before I move in? Or do I want to just go and try to have this be my first attack against him? And I don't want a long rest because this is a good card. And if I roll a really good modifier, who knows, maybe I'll just get lucky and I'll get him in the first round. So I'm going to play these 2 and move in. So I'm going to use this for the default bottom action of move 2. So I'll move through the door 1, 2 to be adjacent to the wolf, the elite wolf. And if you remember, since I'm in range of him now and I'm attacking, so if I'm attacking, he gets to try to interrupt no matter if he's in range. And if I would be not attacking, like if I'd be healing or doing invisibility or something, and I was within his mid-range, he still could try to interrupt. So either one of those conditions allows him to try to interrupt. I actually meet both of those conditions, so he's going to try to interrupt me after I've completed this action, which I have. So we're going to move that down, and we're going to roll for his behavior, A. And he's elite, so we're going to use the gold side. And so he has initiative 26, which I should have picked a leading card here beforehand. I would have picked that, but it doesn't matter because both of those are better than his 26. So now I get to complete my turn, but before the round is over, he gets to do that A column behavior set on me. So we'll set his health to 6. Right there. And I get to finish my turn. I'm going to do the 3 melee attack. If it would kill him, I get to do 2 additional. So this is a really nice situational card here for this situation. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'm not going to roll a modifier. Well, maybe. Good enough to get him. So I'll roll. That's a C. And that's -1. Shucks, I think if I had rolled a B, I would have got him. So that's down to 2. What was potentially like 5 or 6 if I had rolled better is now down to a 2. So I do 2 on him, which is down to 4. And he has that retaliate bonus, so he's going to hit me, and I'm going down to 3. So that's kind of scary. And now he gets to do his turn, which is move 5. He doesn't need to move because we're at range 1. And then attack 2. Oh, this is getting pretty dicey here. So, uh-oh. He gets to roll for his modifier. He is... Did I not update his health? I did. He started at 6 and now he's at 4. He gets to roll on an attack 2. And he rolled a C, which for level 1 is thankfully 0. Whew. So he does his 2 attack, and now I'm at HP 1. And that's the last of my ability cards. I have to discard these 2 B-side cards. So what I'm going to do is stash these back up here just so it's easier to do this. And I can't long rest, so I have to lose a random card. So I'm just going to pull these cards out. I'm going to shuffle the order. I promise I'm not looking. And I'm going to take a random card, which is Homebrew, and that's going to end up going in the back. So I'm going to store that in my finger here, and the rest of them go in the way back. Fan them out, and then now this is my new back card. So I'm going to use that to support the other cards in the back. Okay, so now it's almost like I lost 2 cards because I lost the A side and the B side of that one. So I have 3 cards to start, and we'll get back to where we were. And this is a fresh round in a combat round. So we're starting here, so that means we're starting the round, so I'm going to pick my 2 cards. He was at 4, I'm at 1. I lost my healing card, so that's not even an option. So I need to really try to make sure he gets killed this turn. And so that means I should probably improve my odds of going first by playing this card. Man, I don't really like that. I think that's what I need to do. And I think I'm going to play it for the... No, I was going to play it for the default attack action, but with his Retaliate. Oh, shucks. This is embarrassing because I don't remember the rule. I can't remember if the Retaliate kills me or if we skip the Retaliate, if it would have killed me. I feel like I remember reading something about that. So since I'm not sure, I'll be more mean to myself, and I'll say that if I did play the action and it would kill me because I'm only at health 1, I'm going to say the Retaliate would kill me. So we'll just play it that way, and then I'll look up the rule after this. I'm going to play this card because I want to try for that faster initiative. Yeah, because that would beat his 19. It wouldn't beat his 6, but it would beat his 19, and this card wouldn't beat his 19. So I'm going to give myself 2/3 odds at beating him. This is kind of for all the marbles here. So I'm going to play these 2 cards. My plan is to play this top one as a default attack action. No, that would be silly because that would kill me then. So I'm going to play that for the invisibility. I can't augment it because I don't have any dark in the battlefield. And then I'm going to play that action. That's my plan. And now I roll for his behavior set, which is C, which is initiative 19. Wow, it's a good thing that I went with that card because I would have lost otherwise. So I get to go first, thankfully. I'm going to do the invisible action here, which makes me invisible on his next turn. And then, so that's good. This might actually work out. And then I get to do the attack 3 action. Well, no, it might not work out because he still gets to hit. He still gets to retaliate. So we'll see how this goes. So I'm doing the attack 3 action. I need this to go really well. I actually need to roll a B. So we'll see. I rolled a C. That's bad. So I hit him for 2, which brings him down to 2 health. And he retaliates, which, like I said, I can't remember the rule. So when in doubt, I'm just going to put the rule against myself, and I'm going to say that retaliate 1 goes ahead and kills me. So that was close. 1 more turn or 1 more HP, and I think I would have had him because I was invisible. But anyway, that is, I guess I did a full playthrough there. And what I would do next is I would find the range tracker card, and on the back of it is your, oops, spoilers, I guess. This is my current playthrough. On the back of it is where you're going to keep track of things. You'll mark off these levels as you level up, as you upgrade cards. Like I showed you before, you rotate them to the level 2. Every time you upgrade your character level, you get to upgrade 1 card. You'll mark them off here. Any achievements, I'm going to hide those. Not that you won't see them the moment you see the card, but any achievements you get, you keep track of them there. You make your notes here on your gold and your items. I would use a pencil so you can erase. And then your scenarios. This would probably be good to go over really quick. Since I completed level 1 scenario, here's the key for what you do. You fill in the box when you unlock it. You fill in the star. You fill in the square when you complete it, and if you play a scenario that blocks another scenario, go fill in the circle of the scenario that it blocks. And the scenario book tells you which scenario is blocked if you play that scenario. So right now, pretend all these markings aren't here. I would have unlocked scenario 1 with like the introduction text in the scenario book. So I would have filled in that star. And then now I have I would fill in the square for scenario 1 to show that I completed it. And then the scenario book also tells you which new locations or which new scenarios you unlock, and completing scenario 1 unlocks scenario 2. So I would fill in the star for scenario 2, and then I would go play scenario 2. And every 3 scenarios you complete, you level up your character. So it's not like number 3, scenario number 6, scenario number 9. It's because you'll end up skipping some of these. It's and you'll play some of them out of order depending on how you want to play them. So every 3 squares that you see out here, every 3 completed scenarios, you get to level up. Leveling up looks like choosing one of your ability cards to upgrade, and that means rotating it 180 degrees, and you now get to play with the level 2 half of the card. By the time you're done and you're level 5, because when you're level 1, you have all level 1 cards, and then when you're level 2, you have 1 level 2 card. When you're level 3, you'll have 2 level 2 cards, and so on. So by the time you get to level 5, all of your cards will be upgraded. Also, every time you level up, your maximum HP goes up, and that information is found here. So we started out on level 1 with a maximum HP of 8. When we get to level 2, I must have passed it. When we get to level 2, our maximum HP will be 9. And then we'll also get to play on the better attack modifier table rows. So when I'm level 1, I'm using this row. When I'm level 2, I'm using that row, and so on. Okay, I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff, but I have rambled long enough, and hopefully that gives you a start. Again, please check out the rulebook online. I don't have it up yet, but it will be up soon. Please check out the rulebook. It's a comprehensive guide for the rules, and so anything I missed will be in there. Thanks for watching.